Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast, where we explore our shared love for watching and discussing movies recorded in the late after-work hours, often in lieu of a good night's rest. I'm Julian.
I'm Emilio.
And I'm Madeline. The three of us are colleagues at a Midtown Manhattan music school. Yes, music is what brings us together, but movies are what keep us together, talking at the end of the night. So we've created some order to this ongoing trend by recording these conversations, considering an overarching theme while we cycle through 5 unique guidelines for engagement.
You can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. Seriously, we'd love to hear from you guys out there. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok for updates, highlights, clips, and other visual supplements to the audio that we record at Sleepless Cinematic Pod.
In addition to these main episodes, we record and release bonus one-off episodes as we see fit. While we do this, you, the listener, can count on the three of us doing what we've grown to love, foregoing sleep for a discussion about movies every other week.
And this week, we continue our current cycle of movies related to politics with a category we call Two Shot, where we focus on 2 movies with some striking commonalities, some obvious, some not so obvious, and discuss their themes, characters, and other salient details that stood out to us. And this week, that pair of movies is the 1969 film Medium Cool, directed by Haskell Wexler, and the 1975 film Shampoo, directed by Hal Ashby and starring and co-written by Warren Beatty.
I'm so excited to talk about Shampoo, by the way. We're going to first talk about Medium Cool, but I just have to say
I know you've been championing Shampoo for a long time on this podcast. But before we get any further, we have a fourth with us. We have a very special guest. She is a comedian, actor, improviser, writer, and political impressionist extraordinaire. From her beginnings as a professional ballet dancer, she transitioned to her new life as an actor-comedian with training through The Pit, Magnet Theater, Dallas Comedy House, and UCB in New York, where she met my partner, who is referred to on this podcast as Dougie. You can catch her impressions of our, for now, Vice President Kamala Harris, along with AOC and Meghan Markle, just to name a few. If you live in the New York City area, you can have the privilege of seeing her perform live at UCB, the Asylum Theater, and understudying at Second City, as well as her incredible one-woman show, ACAB, Angry, Crazy, and Black. And if you don't live in New York City, you can catch her on the newest season of Nick Cannon Presents Wild and Out. Dougie and I have known Sydney for about 5 years now, and we always say that it's only a matter of time before she shoots off into superstardom. And so we at the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast are very honored to welcome the incomparable Sydney Duncan.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome.
Oh my gosh, what an intro. I love you and Dougie so much. Dougie was in my Improv 101 class when I first moved to New York. So, wow.
That's incredible, going all the way back. And now you're teaching improv.
Yes, yeah. I love teaching improv. I teach the drop-ins at the Pit. Come on by.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so excited to have you talking about these 2 movies. First up, it's Medium Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And before we get deep into it, we should be clear that Medium Cool is not to be confused with films such as Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, God, yes.
Which is the lone directorial effort of Stephen King.
I think he's more or less disowned that film, hasn't he?
I believe so. I have not seen it, but I've heard some notable, for lack of a better term, things about it.
Mm-hmm.
I would be curious to see it someday. I get kind of the impression it's like a so bad it's good sort of movie.
Yeah.
Okay,
or
fair
maybe
enough.
it ages well, and then you can look at it in retrospect and go, oh, okay, well,
Yeah,
some popcorn.
He was going for something.
It's the movie about the trucks or something that become sentient, right?
Okay. Something like that. In a post-Mad Max film landscape, maybe that didn't land so well.
Like a pre-Pixar Cars world.
Yeah.
I could just imagine Mater just being like, just rolling up there.
Mater.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
But this is not that film.
That's very true. Medium Cool also is not to be confused with Cool Runnings, the 1993 film, loosely based on the true story of the Jamaican bobsled team.
That.
We'll put that on the docket next time.
So cute. Yeah,
nice,
it's great.
Nice. And though the title also refers to gradients of cool, this is not to be confused with Cool as Ice, the 1991 film that might have starred Gwyneth Paltrow were it not that she had a savvy dad in the business who advised her against it. It did, however, star Robert Van Winkle. Do we know who he is?
No, I'm assuming he's not playing the part that was going to be Gwyneth Paltrow.
No,
though.
that's true.
That name sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't place it.
Ice, ice, baby.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, that's-
Vanilla Ice.
That's his real name.
It was the first film of his ill-advised foray into leading feature-length films. It was also his last.
So we could have had a film co-starring Vanilla Ice and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes.
Is what you're
Yeah.
telling me.
Wow.
Exactly.
Let's live in that universe.
Yeah.
I know.
that multiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, for the love of God, do not confuse that movie with Medium Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that we mentioned a few movies just now that have something singular about them because Medium Cool, I think, is a pretty singular film in its own right. I had the false impression going into it that it was the lone directorial effort of Haskell Wexler, which it isn't. But Haskell Wexler is probably better known to most people as a cinematographer.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
he's the cinematographer on this in addition to being the director.
Exactly. So yeah, double duty there.
He was also the cinematographer in a film called Bound for Glory,
Mm-hmm.
which is famously the first time that a Steadicam was used.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he has that distinction. And that film was also directed by the director of the next film that we're going to talk about. But please
Yes.
continue.
Cool.
On that
Haskell
note,
Wexler.
too, another funny coincidence involving the two of them is that they both worked on the 1967 film In the Heat of the Night.
Which I know you've seen before. And
I have
you've-
seen it before. It's been like almost 10 years. It's not
Okay.
fresh in my mind, but
Yeah.
Haskell Wexler was the cinematographer on that. Hal Ashby was the editor of that
Right.
film. So yeah, they crossed paths from time to time. And then, with these two movies that we're going to talk about today, there's a lot of interesting similarities with them that may not appear so salient at first, but they're there. We'll get into it. But Medium Cool. So I had first seen this movie about 5 years ago. And I think it was a movie I really had very little sense of before I was introduced to it. I've got to give a lot of credit to my mom on that. She recommended the movie.
Thanks, Mom.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
to
Mom.
my mom, Sarah, who does listen to this podcast.
What's up, Sarah?
Yeah, she'll get a kick out of hearing this, I know. But so she was recommending that movie to me for some time before I saw it. And then when I watched it, I just remember my feeling afterward being, why don't more people talk about this? This is an awesome movie. And I think that it came out in 1969, which is the beginnings of the so-called New Hollywood era.
Yep.
And, more widely recognized films of that time include things like Easy Rider, Bonnie and Clyde, Midnight Cowboy, which we've covered on the podcast, The Graduate.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that Medium Cool is every bit as good as many of those films, but it just does not get the publicity that it deserves, which is ironic given the themes of the film.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of respect. It was well received by critics at the time. It has a Criterion collection release.
Which is a very important thing, I think, these days.
Oh, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
one of the ultimate stamps of validation on the film's legacy.
I actually read the Safdie brothers were prouder that Uncut Gems was a Criterion film than anything that they could have won at an Oscar.
Oscars.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, I kind of, I see
Makes
that.
sense, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially for guys like the Safdie brothers. Like they
Right.
seem like guys who are like, all we want to do
Is make
if
a
we
great film.
Is make a great film that's
Yeah.
recognized the way that Criterion does.
And
So-
Criterion, I think, has less like politics to it. That
Yeah.
the Oscars is just kind of a popularity contest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard to put something like Medium Cool next to another movie that could have come out that year that
Yeah.
felt like, I don't know, the 2024 version of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still a great cinematic experience, but it's just such a different take on what is a great picture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm with the Safdie brothers on that.
Yeah.
Before we get much deeper into Medium Cool, I think it would make sense to give a little summary of what exactly goes on in this film.
Yeah, please. Tell us what happens in this film.
With pleasure. So Medium Cool focuses, and I use that word very intentionally, on the happenings of a Chicago-based cameraman named John Katselis as he traces events such as a riot training, a march on Washington, D.C., an interesting scenario of a cab driver reporting a sizable wad of cash abandoned in his cab, and then eventually the 1968 Democratic Convention, accompanied by his trusty sound recordist Gus at most points along the way. In the midst of these events, we see Katselis romantically and sexually involved with several different women, but most devotedly with one named Eileen, whom he meets after acquiring, this is going to sound a little bizarre, whom he meets after acquiring a carrier pigeon belonging to her son Harold after Katselis chases him through a parking lot for supposedly robbing his vehicle.
Yeah.
It's pretty specific.
It's very, very specific.
Yeah.
But watch
What
the
a
film
meet
and you'll
cute.
see it. Yeah. It's worth mentioning, too, that Eileen and Harold are transplants from Appalachia
That's
who
true.
live in urban squalor. For lack of better term, they live in a slum. And that, what we see with them in the film represents greater systemic inequities of the 1960s in Chicago and really the USA at large. And with all of these different strands of plot in play, the resulting story makes for a potent meditation on the lines between professionalism, the personal realm, and the state of society in the orbit of and under the influence of journalism and the media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy movie. There's a lot going on
Yeah.
in it, for sure.
Yeah, it's
While
a
we're talking
whirlwind.
about Eileen and Harold, do we know what brought them to Chicago? Do they ever say that?
It's sort of intimated that there might have been something going on with the dad.
The
Yeah.
dad in Vietnam, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there are a couple
couldn't-
different events.
That's
I
Yeah.
couldn't tell
Yeah.
what the truth was with the dad. Like the
Yeah.
kid says he's in Vietnam,
Yeah.
and
The
I think
mom
the mom
says
says
he's
he's
dead.
dead.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like her way of saying. But also, I was thinking, I don't know why I was like giving Eileen her own lore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, give it.
I'm
Go for it.
thinking Chicago 1960s, and you're now a single parent household. You are also going into the Chicago slums. You're also going into Chicago looking for work.
Yeah.
And this is where you have, and I have friends from Chicago and the outside areas who were just as poor as Black people living in the South Side of Chicago, and they were all looking politically and socially at people in positions of power being like, "You are leaving me out."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
movie
what I
gets into
saw.
that,
yeah.
Yeah.
Eileen, because even in the reporter that kept coming to her house and having this inappropriate relationship, or it wasn't inappropriate, but I just felt there was
There's
a
an
power
imbalance
dynamic
for sure.
right? And I
Yeah.
feel like that is a metaphor of how the working class feels with politicians, is that like you're reaching your more powerful arm into my life, but
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily getting to have this reciprocated relationship with you.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good read.
Yeah. I think it was in the commentary on the Criterion disc.
Oh, I should have listened to that.
I
I,
didn't have
love
time.
listening
Yeah.
I didn't have time
to
either.
like
Yeah.
I love when directors or just movie reviewers talk about everything going into the movie.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
that's
same.
actually more
Yeah.
interesting, and I look forward to that than the first watch of a movie.
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in agreement with
Oh,
that.
yay!
Yeah.
So you like the
Context.
Marvel
Love
Easter
context.
egg?
Oh,
He's great.
yeah,
yeah.
YouTube's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in just
Had
the right
you-
place.
Had you seen this movie or
No.
know about it?
I loved that I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, the first time I saw it, I was a little bit too young to fully appreciate it, but it was a very formative viewing experience. And that is because it was the first movie that I ever saw on Laserdisc. And there's a little story behind this.
This is such a you guys, like you and Julian, kind of like so formative. The first Laserdisc movie I
Yeah.
ever saw.
Yeah.
But in my defense, I don't think I've ever watched a Laserdisc.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
continue.
I can say that I've probably seen about 10 movies on Laserdisc. That's because I babysat for a brother and sister back when I was about 14 or 15. It was before I started working at the video store. And their mom and dad, their names were Susan and Craig. They were huge movie buffs. And one day I got into a conversation with them about movies. And Craig was like, wait a minute, you actually like movies and you really like older movies. Like he was like, I can take you seriously. And so he like,
Let me pour you a glass of brandy.
exactly.
Come on, son, sit
just-
down.
Yeah, totally. But he like literally took me to a closet where he had his Laserdisc collection. And the first movie he pulled out was Medium Cool. And it was like the crown jewel of his collection.
Whoa.
And he talked about it for like a couple minutes where he was just like, he felt like it was one of the most important movies that had ever been made. And he told me, he's like, the next time you come over here and you put the kids to bed, why don't you put it on? I'd love to talk to you about it.
I love this because the thought of this adult man recommending this movie to like a 14-year-old
Yeah,
boy
out of all the
is kind of
movies.
crazy to me.
A little bit. I feel like I presented as a pretty mature 14 or 15-year-old.
Yeah.
That's an area where I can relate to.
There we go.
I think I would
Yeah.
have, in that situation, I think the same thing would have happened to me.
Yeah.
That also, it sounds like he had like a proto Criterion closet.
He kind of did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's trippy because they were Laserdiscs. Mind you, this is like 2000, 2001,
Yeah.
around there. And so we weren't quite in the age of the proliferation of DVDs.
Yeah.
And so this is the era of film
Right
buff
before.
that's like the moment they have the higher def version of something, they're on it. And that was Laserdisc at the time.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
but so I did watch it, and I remember it felt very impressionistic to me. Some visuals really stayed with me. All the Chicago cityscapes. By the way, I am from Chicago.
Oh,
And so
fun.
this is a very, like, there are a lot of things like the L and Grant Park and all of that stuff is very
It's so
fresh for
ingrained
me.
in you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And for me, like, I'm not from there, but I have a lot of family based there, so I visit all the time. And it's, you know, there's a similar charm for me in watching Chicago on screen.
Right, absolutely. And I think this is a very Chicago movie.
Yeah.
This makes sense because was the guy also from Chicago?
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay,
was
then
in
this
Chicago,
makes
yeah.
so much
Yeah,
sense.
that
Yeah.
does add
This
up a little
means
more.
something to an older age group in Chicago that I wish all younger Chicagoans could watch.
Right,
Yeah.
totally. And that was
was his
why
message.
he was
Yeah, yeah.
he was like 14, 15-year-old
Right,
Emilio.
yeah.
I need to educate you. And so I totally took it. And I remember thinking it felt important to me as I was watching it. And another thing that really stuck with me is, so when I was growing up in grade school, I had a friend, and I'm not going to name him here. His father was a rookie cop during those riots.
Wow.
And he talked very openly from the perspective of the police officers. He was like, the police officers did their job. I mean, mind you, when you're the son
Right.
of that family,
You want your dad to come home.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's going to get a particular perspective on that. And
Totally.
so he talked very openly about this when we were like in 4th and 5th grade.
That's wild.
He's a very smart guy, and he's done great in his life. And what I will say is, I think he would look back on how fervently he spoke about this and maybe go, yeah, I was like 10. And I thought I was like really standing up for things.
And at that age, like, you think of your parents as kind of being heroes most of
Absolutely.
the time. So it's
Absolutely.
like he has been, as you said, he's been looking at it from a particular perspective.
Yeah.
He's been fed a particular story. He had no reason to question it at age 10 or
Absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah, totally. And so I knew about that at a fairly young age. And so getting to see a lot of this take place kind of felt a little bit like unlocking a chapter of my hometown's history. And I also remember watching it. I was really struck by how I felt like it was like right at the intersection of history and film, which were two things I was really into when I was a teenager. And so, I mean, this is a movie that I definitely was like, I definitely saw something.
Yeah.
It seemed
Yeah.
important. It felt important. But a lot of the details, I think, kind of left me. And so coming back to this was really fun.
Yes. But what struck me watching it this time is that, I mean, even though I had seen it before, I honestly had forgotten a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's such a whirlwind of a movie that it's pretty easy to understand that, I think.
Totally.
And that what really did stick with me was the ending of the movie,
Yeah.
which we'll get into in a little bit.
Definitely.
But I think that for a lot of people is probably the part that's most burned into their brains, just for the serendipity of it, as well as just the impact as
Yeah.
well.
Especially him being a Wexler. I want to make sure I'm saying his name right.
Yes.
You can tell that he cares about what visually you're taking in
Oh,
and what that visual feeling, what visceral reaction you're getting from it. But what's so interesting too is there's a Vice interview with him talking about the more documentary style that he was going for, and you can see that. Like, this could have easily just been a documentary
Totally.
about like Chicago and before the DNC,
Mhm.
and which was also fascinating too, because the only footage that I've seen in the 60s or paid attention to was from a Black perspective, and we're talking about Martin Luther King, we're talking about everything that was happening in Chicago and the Midwest within the civil rights movement of that time. So it's very interesting to also think that for Black and brown and poor people, it was politics is paramount because you are being politicized. So it's very interesting to go back in time. And I feel like Shampoo touched on this as well, of like, what are people doing when you're not a part of the politics?
Yeah.
Right.
How do you interact with these systems and the mayor and the president and people with money or people with power when it's not necessarily affecting your daily life. So yeah, this reporter guy who similars with Warren Beatty's character, it's like, you can move around the city and think about sex while there's a riot going on.
Yeah.
You can think about, oh, this lady, what can I get from people when
You can stay very detached.
Yes.
There's a certain amount of
you
privilege.
can stay medium cool about it. Yeah. Like you can stay kind of, oh yeah, this is what's going on. And like the mayor did this, there's $10,000 in a cab, blah, blah, blah. But you could tell he was very detached or allowed to be. Not even allowed. I don't like that word. I think that he feels he has the right and privilege and the entitlement to not necessarily be as engaged. And that's why I loved the scene where he went up to the guy that found the money in the taxi cab.
Yeah. When he goes
the cab driver.
The cab driver. And I loved that in the Vice interview, one of the black actors that he was like, hey, just say these lines, but also just say what you think. And in these circumstances that this reporter who's more pompous coming in, like, what would you want to say to someone like that? And it was so great to get an actor who was comfortable with improvising, just like, you know what? White people come in here and ask us our opinion and then leave, just like politicians. Da, 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 da. And he rattles off, and I didn't know that was improvised.
I love that it's straight to camera, too, because that's the only time in the whole film when you've got something that's straight to camera is it goes through a couple of these different actors.
Yeah. And it feels more documentary.
Yeah.
So then, like, I loved all the shots of let's take in that perspective. Let's make the audience and the reporter guy uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And also it's like who he's interacting with is uncomfortable. That's how Americans feel when we're interacting with these people in positions of power that abuse it. It's like, I feel uncomfy.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the DNC. I'm going to go to this riot. It's not going to a riot. They're going to a protest. And I'm unsettled. I'm uncomfy, but I know that I need to be a part of this thing while I get to watch people not feel they need to be involved.
Yeah, I think he's almost convinced himself that he has an obligation to stay detached as like a journalist. When in reality, like, yes, I mean, you have a certain responsibility as a journalist, and you have to make your own personal decisions on how involved you want to be with each of the stories that you're covering. But for him to be in the action at the DNC, I thought was really, really interesting to see how he has to, in comparison with Eileen, as she is also moving through this and also has a certain detachment because she's not here to be part of the protest.
It almost feels like a dream.
Exactly. Yeah. She's here to look for her son.
And she's in yellow, which I think was very, like, I bet it was, that I'm this neutral person that's a part of America and I'm from this small town and I'm here and I'm trying to navigate these big, powerful spaces and I get washed away. As a woman, as this person who not coming from money and education. What was so interesting too, speaking of women, in the Vice interview, the girl who works, I think it was like Penny or Peggy, she's taking a pill.
Yes.
And so Wexler was like, she was taking a birth control pill.
Yeah, which I didn't catch at all watching the film. She's just like drinking out of a water fountain. I didn't even notice she took a pill, but I saw a similar interview.
And it was like a part of women's liberation and like, let's have her take her birth control on camera. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Like these little things that, the average person.
Is awesome.
Yeah.
I remember it now, but I would not have recalled it. Yeah.
That came up in the Criterion commentary too. And I think the idea at the time the movie came out was that there just weren't many scenes where you'd see a woman taking a pill anyway. So it was just kind of assumed that the audience would understand that it is the pill, as it was put.
Sort of like the toilet flushing in Psycho.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the first time you ever saw a toilet flush on screen.
Wow.
Yeah. And like,
fun fact.
Kind of relevantly to that in Medium Cool, that the shower that you see Harold take, that was the first time he had ever seen not a bathtub, but a shower.
Because Harold Blankenship, who plays Harold in the movie, actually was a kid living in this neighborhood in Chicago. He was not an actor. His IMDb is extremely short. He doesn't, I don't know if Julian, you got around to the interview with him on the Criterion DVD because I did not. But he goes on to live a largely normal life. And this is like his largest role. And they literally just plucked him out of this neighborhood while doing their research.
Yeah.
So that scene where he's taking a shower is literally the first time that he had ever even seen a shower.
Wow, that's heavy.
It came up too in the commentary that I believe, I think there, like someone asked earlier, like why are all these Appalachian characters appearing in this film. And Haskell Wexler brought up that there was an actual community in Chicago at that time of Appalachian transplants. I think in uptown Chicago. Yeah. So there was a mix, as there is throughout this whole movie, of fiction and reality there, where you have people like Harold Blankenship, who is a non-actor, but then you also have, his mother. She is portrayed by an actor, but also that there's many points throughout various scenes of this film where there are lines that people who experience them would assume are improvised, and they turn out to be scripted. And Haskell Wexler just had a really prescient sense of dialogue, but there are also other moments that like sound scripted and turned out to be improvised too.
Yeah, right.
Totally.
It's very organically put together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I like, there are more films that Haskell Wexler directed, but I think they're mostly documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
And, I sort of wish he had more fiction films like this, because I'd want to see him do more of that.
Yeah,
Totally.
kind of meshing that line. Also, it's such a historical timestamp as well for him to get documentary style footage at such an iconic DNC. Like, I was just looking at the footage. Like, my grandfather, all of my grandparents. I mean, you had to be. It was the civil rights movement. It's like, we have to fight for our rights, or we will continue to live in danger and peril. And my grandfather was friends with Jesse Jackson, and just to see him so young in a photo, I was like, wow. It's like. Yeah. My grandparents were fighting and marching in that same year, but to see footage in a different town, in a different context, through the lens of a white person, it was very interesting. And I wish there was more footage like that, and I wish more kids could see footage like that of like the protests that you're doing today, like we've done before, and you are walking on the shoulders of giants, and we have to keep doing this. And it'll never be, unfortunately, easy. It'll never feel like you're doing the right thing. It's going to feel unsettling and scary, and you're not always going to have the support of the generation before you.
I think that was one of the things that really struck me too.
And people know what's going on, and it's like, also, this is the 60s in Chicago, but for instance, my dad is from a very small town in Louisiana, and 1968 they were still segregated in schools. My parents were in 3rd or 4th grade, and I think it was in 3rd or 4th grade where they finally integrated, and it was a big deal. And there was a lot of violence, and there was a lot of what's going on, and I'm just a kid. I'm just in the 4th grade, and what does this mean? And it's like, those were the political issues at hand in school board meetings. Like, okay, the big wigs and these big elite cities are saying we need to end segregation in the schools, and then through the pipelines of these other states are like, okay, 1968 was a big year for a lot of people, big and small towns. And it's just very interesting just to see, like, whoa, like, I had to think back, like, what else was going on in 1968? And
well, they capture some of it with the Martin Luther King clip on TV.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Also, there's that scene of some people canvassing for RFK. Too.
Yeah, this is the year that MLK and Bobby Kennedy are both assassinated.
Wow.
Yeah, and that footage of the canvassers, that was real. Like, those were real RFK canvassers, and it was, of course, filmed before the assassination. I'm just thinking now, I'm gonna be very self-conscious about using the word "shot" to describe film in this conversation, just because of instances like that,
right? Like what was happening politically and the unfortunate realities of how dangerous it was out there.
I mean, this is a documentary I've mentioned in a much earlier episode of the podcast, but there was a movie that came out last year called Subject, which is more about the nature of documentary and the line between exposure and exploitation of subjects in films.
Ooh, yeah.
Fascinating movie, highly recommended. It deserves a bigger platform. Which is, there's a little commentary maybe just in that statement too, given the themes of it. But also, one thing that came up in that movie was that a lot of times the language that is used to describe cameras is weirdly similar to guns. Like,
and this movie does have a couple references to guns.
And
gun ownership and
the
gun
word
rights.
shoot. Yeah, I mean, the word shoot is a good enough example in itself. It's like, depending on how the camera is used, it really can be used almost like a weapon.
It's a weapon.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and I do think that the movie does have some things to say about the responsibility of somebody who carries that around. And I think today we live in a world where, our phones are that in a way that 20 years ago we probably would have never imagined.
Never would imagine.
But the main character in this, John, he basically has a smartphone.
Yeah.
He's the guy with the kind of power in many respects that I think now we just take for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even in that regard, like the guy on the bench brutally getting beat. In this day and age, and even that day and age, if you were holding up a camera to someone getting beat, it's like, why are you holding up the camera? Go help this person.
Yeah.
And it's like, but don't we also need to document to help this person? And it's crazy that now, back then and now, you're thinking, okay, how can I help them not get in trouble, not get arrested, but also show people what's going on, but also help them and also morally go through that all at the same time.
And are you in a physical space where you could help?
Yes.
It's like, do you even have the physical ability to take on
the police beating someone? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that comes up all the way in the first scene of Medium Cool, which doesn't have to do with the police necessarily, but it's of this main character, John, and his sound recordist, Gus. They are capturing a scene of a car wreck with a woman who's clinging onto life there. And, that same quandary comes up there, too, because, they're focusing on getting the good shot, but they could be helping her.
They could be helping her.
And they still don't. Like, they radio it in and say, like, call an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, she is still alive at this point, and they do nothing. They don't even say anything to her.
Yeah, I feel like it's very intentional that they waited until after they got back to the car. It wasn't like they made the call from the car, then got the shot. There could have been a first responder there probably 2 minutes before.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes is an eternity for something like that.
And this film, spoiler alert, comes full circle in that way.
Yeah.
At the very end, John and Eileen get into a car accident. And I believe they say Eileen dies at the scene and that John is in critical condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's that's at the point where I think that narratively it's a very new Hollywood ending.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
So the ending, the metaphor that I think of the ending. So yes, the poor Eileen. I didn't know that Eileen. I didn't know the ending. Did they write that like in the credits?
I believe it's
over
like
the radio.
over the radio.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear. I think
they say it a little bit before it happens. Too.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's easy to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I thought of it as a metaphor of the reporter. Why can't I think of his name?
John.
I'm so
I
bad at
keep-
names.
Yeah.
I'm
John
constantly
and
like
Eileen.
John
Good old
George.
Eileen. Eileen deserved better. Go get you.
Yeah.
But them interacting very lightly with politics and not really know what's going on also affects the everyday American and also kind of bulldozes and the politics of being an American kills us. And it still feels like even if we try to help the American that is not doing well and needs to be helped politically or just socially, all we can do is drive by and watch. All we can do is interact in a very minute way that doesn't really help them. That's the metaphor I was thinking, just politically. We're all in the car looking at these people dying and we don't know what to do and we don't know how to help and we don't know how to politically engage. Even when we all protest at the DNC that these are our rights and these are our values, it's like, it still feels like it won't make a difference and you feel powerless and then you just watch the car burn. You just watch the American not being helped or anything get better. I don't know why my brain went there. But
Totally.
No, yeah.
And then you got like
great place to go.
the final shot with Haskell Wexler actually in a cameo, like turning the camera to the viewer. And I think that totally underlines your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it made me think
You're
too.
watching.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're being watched.
And you're being watched.
Yeah.
Oof,
And
woof.
as that scene occurs, there's also this audio going, the whole world is watching. The whole world is watching.
Yeah.
And I think they said on the commentary, it's meant to really, it's pretty on the nose, but it is really meant to like be any dimension that you perceive it to be, whether it's about the viewer or it's about, as Wexler himself referred, God. Which is, interesting thing for him to say, but there you go. And I was thinking too, like, there's this constant back and forth in the movie between what is written and what is just part of reality. if it were not filmed at this time. But it's worth mentioning too that that Haskell Wexler originally was under contract to make a different movie.
Oh.
It was called, I believe it was called Concrete Jungle.
Yeah.
And that this is how the whole thing about carrier pigeons ends up in the movie. That there was like a metaphor of a pigeon in that. I think it was meant to be about a poor kid growing up in a city. I don't know if it was specifically Chicago, but
he could have still made that with Homeboy Harold.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he was a natural.
Yeah, that was the idea going in, but then Haskell just realized as the as he saw the scenery of Chicago at that time that there is a moment he needs to capture here.
And that's so cool to me that I remember I had listened to some interviews that were talking about this story about he was essentially pitched this script from somebody who was like, you're a cinematographer wanting to make a directorial debut. I think this script that we have, Concrete Jungle, is going to be good for you. It's about a kid like raising animals in the city or something.
Yeah.
But then he goes to Chicago and he sees what's happening and he understands the importance of it.
Yeah.
And he says like, I have like an opportunity to capture this and to show people what's happening, because he also like had history himself as like an anti-war activist.
Yeah.
And so like he's talking to people, he's in the community that is very frustrated that the Democrats are not most likely going to be choosing an anti-war candidate at the DNC. And that's how they end up at the convention, because there are rumors for a long time that there are going to be protests, there is going to be unrest at the convention because the Dems are not going to nominate an anti-war candidate in the middle of the Vietnam War.
Wow. Yeah. And then there's the contrast between Wexler's own politics and the kind of apolitical nature of John as we see him in the film.
Yeah.
And that he's mostly just someone who appears to be doing his job.
Oof. And that, I completely understand that perspective. But I sometimes get very hurt, and I try not to take it personally when someone's like, I'm more apolitical and I just don't engage. I completely understand why someone might not want to engage, because sometimes you're so informed that it is so overwhelming and you feel so powerless that you're just like, I don't feel that even my vote will matter. And I get that sentiment, because it's like, Eric Adams, it's like
or recently indicted mayor.
Or figuring out that, there's so many different political PACs that are, backed by hedge funds, even on the left or the right. So I understand the apolitical person that's like, knowing this, I'm out. I just feel like this is too much, or can't stand the other perspective of like, well, it has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm cool. My life's fine. My job's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to engage. Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts because you get to have the privilege of it not affecting your daily life.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't affect our life in New York City, I'm still thinking about Eileen having access to birth control. I'm still thinking about smaller cities in America that already have lost so much access. The whole reason why people from the Appalachian Mountains and lower class white people were coming to bigger cities is because corporations, even in the 60s, 40s, and 50s, were already moving to the bigger cities or moving overseas to save money. Like, we're seeing that at a large scale now, but it was happening back then, the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, I think she's working in a factory.
Yes.
She's working at Motorola.
Yeah. This is why people were moving to bigger cities. That was happening in all poor towns all over America. Back to Louisiana, where my dad's from, it was a one mule town. It was a paper company. They were there, and it was a cancerous paper company.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, the air smelled different when you went into the town.
Yep.
And
I've lived in a town like this.
Yeah, and all of those people
it
have
ruins
cancer.
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
But it was a black town, so they didn't have rights on the scale of a rich white person in Chicago to be like, hey, don't move that paper company right there. Move it to the poor black town. So it was there, but it gave people jobs for 20, 30 years. And then they moved overseas. And that entire town, it broke my heart every time to grow older and go back to visit my grandparents and see the town just obliterated. Everyone took care of their lawns and had so much pride, and it was just pure poverty. and you saw the crime rate rise. Like you could literally see what was happening in real time, like every 5 years that I got to go. And it just would break your heart because it used to be such a thriving town.
I mean, that's kind of the story of Detroit too.
Yes.
Detroit was like that. I mean, the idea of it happening just in small towns too.
Yeah.
I mean,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Because if this town or if this city is primarily relying on this single company, like I said, I've lived in towns like this. I lived in a town with a paper mill. It's the smell of a town that has a paper mill is unlike any other smell you will ever experience. You can smell it for miles outside of the town, and you eventually, I think, if you live there long enough, become immune to it, and that in itself, I think, is horrifying, and probably a metaphor for a wider issue. But when a town like this is solely reliant on this company, this factory, and they move away, there are no other options. So yes, going back to your point, that's how they end up somewhere like Chicago. And yeah, I assume that's why Eileen is there.
Right. Or they wind up apolitical because they're watching a country move on without you.
Yeah.
Move on without your views and your values. So yeah, you might become medium cool about it all just because
you're disenfranchised.
Yeah, I completely get it. So I try to not take it personal, and I look at the bigger picture of people are just peopling, and there's a reason why someone's apolitical. There's emotions behind it. Now, you know, the cool guy in New York is like, I just don't care about politics. No,
yeah, you're like him.
Yeah.
I will.
You'll care if you get someone pregnant. Yeah,
Well, yeah, right. I do feel like another aspect of going apolitical just has to do with the insane amount of inputs that we have in
It's such
terms
a
of
high
like
frequency.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
And I feel like that's like another layer of there's like a self-protection
Yes.
that I think people go into that I'm not even talking about the issues. Like I'm having things on TikTok trying to sell
Yeah.
me this. I'm having things on Instagram trying to sell me this. You know, my phone is listening to me right now and is putting advertisements like
It's mentally exhausting.
right.
Yeah.
And so there is this like thing where I kind of get it. Like
Yeah.
it's as hard as it's ever been, I think, to split yourself into all of these different places and compartmentalize and still have the kind of energy that it takes
To engage.
and bring the best version of yourself
Right.
to a conversation or to a table where you might actually be able to influence somebody. So
Yeah.
it's tricky. It's a weird time to be alive.
And to the point that's being made now, I mean, the title of the movie is adapted from a Marshall McLuhan text where he claims that the television is a so-called cool medium, which I think, you know, it's, I think even Haskell Wexler himself was kind of unclear on what it all means.
He was like, supposedly people ask him and he's like, I don't know, go to the library.
Yeah. Yeah.
A vague library. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to a certain extent, like in 1968, where there wasn't this much information as accessible, then if you're Eileen and you're just trying to support your family as a single mother, and then you've got this freaking guy inserting himself into your life or whatever, and he comes from this background that you're totally unfamiliar with, and all you know is that he has some sort of like power over you, and he has a lot of privilege over what you have, then I understand Eileen being like, I'm focused on caring for my son
Yeah.
and finding my son who has run away from home, who is missing.
Yeah.
And clearly there's something bigger happening. And there's a little bit on the Criterion DVD about scenes that were cut out of her actually becoming more politically aware and her
Oh.
getting involved in the poor people's movement in her community. And those were ultimately cut out.
Oh, because it was more narrative, or
I think that it was just a time thing, honestly.
Yeah.
But I do think it changes her characterization a lot to have those things missing.
Yeah.
Because I think that the movie we have is like, she's just trying to get by. And
Right.
like, she actually maybe isn't in a position where she can become super politically involved at
She's
this
the viewer.
time.
Yeah.
Right.
She's us.
I think there is a majority American that has a lot of other pressing concerns
Yes.
at
Yeah.
hand. I mean, and you were talking about that
Yeah.
earlier, Sydney, where it's like, I'd love to think that my vote is going to make an impact
Right.
and create some lasting change, not just for me, but for other people in my community and for future generations. But I have to pay my phone bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't go to a protest because I cannot afford
work.
to go.
Yeah, like I can't miss work.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like, if you watch a lot of documentaries, I cannot remember the one, but they basically did research on how much a vote goes versus a dollar will. So like a lobbyist, how much does $1 billion with a lobbyist will go can far reach and change politics more than one vote can, or 1 billion votes can. And that is so sad that our vote can only get us so far when it comes to policy and laws changing. And yeah, that can make you want to go, well, then I'm out, you know?
Yeah, right.
I get it.
And it's so tough too, because if you really get at the core of this, it actually is votes that put people in office.
Yes.
And so
The
at
people
some
still
point,
matter.
right? And at some point, all those dollars are not really going to matter if you don't have people voting.
Right.
And I think that's
It's
one
a
of the
double-edged sword, kind of.
right, yeah.
But then, like, going back to the not uninvolvement, but perhaps the lack of concern about politics specifically. I mean, you
Yeah.
kind of get the impression from the momentum that the whole DNC sequence creates in the film that, you know, when that climactic car crash occurs at the end, it almost feels like it doesn't matter what anyone's beliefs are. It's just
Right.
the pure momentum of it all
Yeah.
that was driving it.
And we're people. Politics at the end of the day don't matter when it comes to the personal of like, we don't even know who won the election at the time of the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you still get in your cars and go back to your life that matters more.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately Wexler just is a complete master for being able to capture all of these nuances, because he himself is not John. Like, he is incredibly politically involved. He had a background being politically involved. He continues to be politically involved throughout his life. He's an incredibly progressive director in person. And he actually does get tear gassed at this protest.
Wow.
So it's like you can kind of catch it, and you hear, and apparently
Look out, Haskell, it's real.
this is ADR'd
Oh, wow.
though.
Yeah.
Oh, is that so?
But yeah,
Yeah, it
you
is.
can hear, and I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but you can hear "Look out, Haskell, it's real," where they ADR this in, but they actually do tear gas this crew. And Haskell Wexler himself is like, there's shots on the Criterion DVD of like him, you know, on his back, like being cared for by the rest of his crew because he's been tear gassed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of to that point, I mean, there's another thing that came up in the commentary with Haskell Wexler and also Paul Golding, who was involved in the editing of the film, that like ever since this time has become history, that you see movies like Forrest Gump and they aim to recapture it, or more recently the trial of the Chicago 7, but it feels stagey every time. It never has the, this is an overused word, but the authenticity that you see in Medium Cool.
Also, just a fun fact, I was just looking at Wexler's wiki, and George Lucas was a mentee of his, met him at 20.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And liked
And-
the perspective of like the people's movement, which was very Jedi.
And in fact, we have a segment on here sometimes where we want to shout out like credit spotting.
Oh, yeah. I got some things for
fun.
that.
And
Yeah.
and I spotted one, which was Marsha Griffin, who you may better know as Marsha Lucas,
Oh.
George Lucas's, I believe, first wife.
Oh, wow.
What was
She
her role?
is credited, I believe, as an assistant editor on this film.
Look at that.
And in the actual credits, she's credited as Marsha Griffin because this is before her marriage to Lucas. But on the IMDb, she's listed as Marsha Lucas, which is why it jumped out to me. But I assume that's, the connection there.
Yeah.
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 I wanted to point out two other things I noticed from the credits.
I think I know what one of them's going to be.
I have one, yeah.
Well, I'll go with the one that I don't think you'll guess first, which
Okay.
is being a young person who grew up in Chicago. I noticed in the credits that there was a man who was credited as our man in Chicago.
That's what I was going to point
me
out.
too.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And that's Studs Terkel,
Yeah.
who was like a radio personality, but also a writer and columnist. And he is an institution in Chicago.
Wow.
I just love that he was involved in some way in this film. I think it's so cool.
He was really the bridge for Haskell Wexler and the rest of the crew to a lot of these communities in Chicago, to the Appalachian community, to like the other people living in the house where the cab driver is. Like, I think that Studs Terkel essentially vouches for Wexler.
Got it.
And is
That's
able
cool.
to get him into these communities.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's like, it's hard to have a camera and just go into these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
How intimately he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently Studs Terkel was, very important.
This is
in
my
that.
was the
guy.
guy.
He's okay. He's
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
Truly.
The other one that I was going to mention, and this jumped out to me, Medium Cool, was scored by Mike Bloomfield, who was a blues guitarist and apparently the cousin of Haskell Wexler. This I did not know.
Yeah.
It's a really cool score, and I love the march element
Yeah.
that you hear through this. You got that super reverby guitar.
Yeah, I've got it in my head now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But Mike Bloomfield is one of those guys. He has a very famous recording, Super Sessions, that is definitely for guitar players something of
Yeah.
a holy grail.
Wow.
So worth checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And while we're talking about these, sort of production details, I mean, we haven't even mentioned the name of the actor who plays John Katselis yet, who is Robert Forster.
Yeah.
And this is, he has a unfairly limited filmography, but this is definitely considered one of his more iconic roles. I mean, what happens in the arc of his career is that, you have him when he's young in movies like this, and this is probably the best known movie from that era of his career. And then there's a big slump throughout the 70s and 80s. It's not until 1997 that his career gets truly revitalized when Quentin Tarantino casts him in Jackie Brown. And from then on, he worked steadily until the end of his life. And yeah, I mean, just entering this movie, there's all of the great commentary that it offers about politics and the media and everything in between. But I feel like, part of the appeal too is just seeing one of the finest Robert Forster performances too.
Totally.
Yeah, he's very his face is very empty.
Yeah.
I find he's just his face is very chiseled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he looks pensive a lot. He's a great choice to depict this kind of dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
medium cool.
Exactly.
Totally.
But also, my one person that I was like, oh my God, look at him. Peter Boyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone
Yeah.
loves Raymond.
Yeah.
Loved that show.
Young
Saw
Frankenstein.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taxi Driver.
I was going to say he's also
yeah.
a taxi driver.
Yeah. But Robert Forster, am I saying his
Yes.
name
Forster,
right?
yeah.
I always feel like in the 90s and early 2000s, and I mean, even up until the 2010s, he always plays when the FBI or CIA or very important office comes in, he always has a folder of important stuff he's bringing.
And it's so
all right.
interesting because
Yeah.
in this movie, he gets very paranoid about the FBI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a younger version of his characters that he plays later in his life.
Perhaps an
Yeah.
unlikely shared
Yeah.
universe somewhere.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Forster.
And yeah, speaking of those career moves that happened with him, I mean, he basically gets fired from his initial job because of, he realizes that his footage is being used by the FBI and other agencies.
What am I, a fink?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, we see that he is fired from that initial reporting job. But then, towards the end of the movie, he gets hired for this other gig filming the DNC. And then the guy who is hiring him to do that. So this is a pretty interesting anecdote that the person, I forget the actor's name now, but that guy, he wasn't an actor. He was someone that the studio, Paramount, had sent to kind of check on the film, basically to say hey, are you still working on Concrete Jungle? What's going on here?
Oh.
A little bit like John Landis in the making of Fast Times at Ridgemont
Right.
High.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice callback.
But yeah, so that was kind of his function. But then Haskell Wexler decided to meet him in the middle by casting him in that role as the guy who basically provides John with that.
Yeah.
Have you ever
DNC
thought of
film.
acting? Well, I did a little musical in my day.
But also that role was initially meant for someone who would have been quite a good fit in that part, which was D.A. Pennybaker.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Huh.
That's so interesting
Yeah.
to populate a film with the behind the scenes people. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool. Are there any little details that we want to shout out about this?
I wanted to say something that I learned on the DVD, which is maybe going to be a bridge at some point into the next film we're going to talk about. Warren Beatty actually gets them into the convention. So they have these fake, they
Yep.
just do fake press armbands.
It's probably a lot
I heard
easier
this
in the
too.
olden days. Yeah.
But they get caught. So it does not work. But I guess Haskell Wexler knew Warren Beatty and he sees him there and he goes up to him and he's like, they won't let us in. And Warren Beatty is like, well, I'll get you in if you film some footage of me.
Sounds like Warren Beatty. We're going to get
that
into
like I can maybe use for a future project.
Yeah.
And so he actually does bring them in. He like tells
Wow.
security, these guys are with me. And then they shoot some like, B-roll for him. I don't know if he ever ends up using it.
Ever the schemer.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking too, I was like, how did they get this footage?
Yeah.
And
Warren
little did I
Beatty.
know, Mr. Shampoo.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. I read a little bit about that too. That's really fun.
Yeah, and also, speaking of, that's more serendipitous than this, but speaking of brushes with other big names, that the character John Katselis was initially written and intended for someone who that name closely resembles, who is John Cassavetes.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't able to be in the film for scheduling conflicts. I assume maybe he was filming Rosemary's Baby.
Could be.
That's a big
Fair.
scheduling.
It didn't turn out so bad for him. I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if that overlapped in terms of filming schedules, but yeah, it could have gone in a different scenario to John Cassavetes.
Another guy with a prominent behind the scenes career.
And
Totally.
also with a very naturalistic style of movie making.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing, too, that I know, Madeline, you're going to get a big kick out of this, is that one little detail I noticed. So we haven't mentioned early in the movie, there is a quick roller derby scene
Oh, yeah.
where,
I like that one.
yes, where John and a woman who he's with are attending this. Ruth, yes, that's his initial partner in the movie. They are attending a roller derby, and you only see it in one shot, but one of those teams is called the T-Birds.
Ah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Is the other one the pink lady?
They are not, no.
Oh,
Although there's a really spunky lady that
yeah.
starts some
Like-
shit, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
starts a fight on the
So,
rink. Yeah.
I can't remember which of the pink ladies would be the one to
Would be
initiate
the
a
one
fight.
to
Yeah.
initiate a fight, Rizzo, for sure.
Okay, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the scenes of the film, the one that I'm sure it left an impression then, but I think now with time, the apartment scene when
Yes.
Robert Forster's John goes and wants to kind of get a follow-up interview with the
Yeah.
cab driver. One movie that I would recommend to everybody here, and I actually posted about this, I think last MLK Day, is a film called The Time for Burning. Is anybody here familiar with that film?
I feel like I've seen this, but it was such a long time ago.
Oh man. I mean, this is like one of the most important films like I've ever
Yes.
seen. I cannot stress enough. Also, you were talking about these to the camera improv moments, and A Time for Burning is really famous because it was the standout moment for a gentleman named Ernie Chambers, who ended up becoming I think a congressman for years and years. Ernie Chambers in this movie is like chills. And the movie itself is so fascinating. So if you've seen Medium Cool and
You
the
were
type
into
of
it.
conversation, they're just like not running away from the realities that I
Yeah.
think that this movie starts to capture. If you want to like take that baton and just pass it along, go see A Time for Burning. I think it's super, super good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the
Yeah.
rec.
Totally.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about connections to the greater film world, I mean, it's maybe like not the same kind of connection, but I mean, I kept thinking throughout watching Medium Cool that it really feels like an early example of a style that would become much more prevalent later on, even, all the way to today. And I was thinking, I mean, we mentioned them already, but I was thinking a lot of like the filmmaking style of the Safdie brothers
Mm.
while
Yep.
watching this. It feels like a predecessor to that.
Interesting.
Or
yeah.
to a filmmaker like Sean Baker, who
Mhm.
made Tangerine, the Florida Project, and is now promoting Anora.
Yeah.
Because a lot of like of both parties, I mean, they like Sean Baker and the Safdie brothers, they are both people who blend fiction and reality in their respective films. There's, usually the lead actor is going to be someone who is cast for the role, an actor, but there are a lot of non-actors in their films
Yeah.
too. And there's also an intention to focus on underrepresented swaths of society as well.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's interesting. There's definitely a significant gap in time between Medium Cool and filmmakers, or the works of filmmakers like them. So, I mean, what fills it? Probably just, 80s Hollywood and everything around it. But
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
very different.
yes.
My one last thing that really I left with the movie was, wow, this could not be made today.
Yeah.
Just like the capitalistic aspect that's taking over Hollywood on such an immense scale these days versus the 60s. He couldn't have made this film in 2024. And that's so sad because it's so naturalistic. And I can't think of the last naturalistic movie like that where the actors don't have to be the hottest people on the planet or go into the DNC or just say something or not say anything at all, have no narrative. And it was just refreshing to watch that. And then also with The Time for Burning, the congressman was in Nebraska.
Oh, in Nebraska?
But he also then went on to more north. But he started his political career in Nebraska. He was the former Minnesota governor. Okay. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, Ernie Chambers, is the name sounded familiar because my grandfather was the president of the NAACP during the 60s and 70s. And I will call him tonight to see because that name sounds so familiar, and I bet you $5 he probably they were all so well connected, even without social media. They all just pulled together. Let's support Jesse Jackson. Let's support all these candidates because it was like the black vote was all you had if you wanted to get someone into office, any type of office, whether it's just like the superintendents of your own black independent school district. So I would love to ask him about Ernie Chambers.
We'll need an update from
you. He would love, I cannot wait because he loves movies and all of this. And all he watches is Turner Classic Movies or like MSNBC. So he'll love this question. I can't wait to watch Time of Burning.
Cool.
That's kind of my lasting thing.
I cannot recommend it enough. Wonderful. Wow. Well, maybe we will. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I can't wait to ask him just because he was so politically involved in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that I would love to hear what he thought.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Yeah, I guess we'll take this opportunity. I think, Madeline, you set us up really nicely there with the Warren Beatty connection.
Shampoo. Shampoo's way more fun.
Definitely.
It's lighter in some ways.
Very tonally different.
Yes.
So the next movie that we're going to talk about is Shampoo, which comes out in 1975.
Correct.
So it comes out 6 years after this movie comes out.
Right.
However, it is set in 1968.
Exactly.
It is set on Election Day. It starts on like Election Eve, but it very quickly moves to Election Day
to November 5th
of 1968. And so these two movies are taking place in a very similar time period.
Yeah. Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Shampoo, like as you said, was released in the spring of 1975. I can't wait to get into this.
Yeah.
This is a semi-autobiographical brainchild of its lead actor, who we've already mentioned before, one of Hollywood's most compelling figures, Warren Beatty, who was an actor and a filmmaker and a world-class Lothario. He succeeded spectacularly at all three of those things, apparently.
Lothario as in like Playboy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I assumed I just hadn't heard that word before. So
this seems very autobiographical.
Yes.
Wow.
I think we'll get into that.
This is such an interesting... Okay, all right, we're going to get back to that.
I didn't know it was autobiography.
Yeah. Wow. It was a project, and it was about 7 years in the making. It took many forms before he and screenwriter Robert Towne wrangled it into a workable script. Apparently, that was a very contentious process. Wow. Okay, Shampoo. We get dropped into a consequential 36-hour stretch in the life of George Roundy, a successful Beverly Hills hairdresser. It's a consequential day for the country, too. As we noted, it is Election Day, November 5th, maybe a little bit of November 4th happening, but most of what happens is on November 5th, Election Day in 1968. Now, personal matters are way more pressing for George at this point. You see, George has a habit of seducing and sleeping with as many of his female clients as he can, and things are about to get very messy. His latest conquest, Felicia, has taken a shine to him and suggests he reach out to her wealthy businessman husband, Lester, for a loan to open his own salon, a desire that George feels unmotivated by, but still obligated to pursue in some way. Lester has no idea that his wife is sleeping with George, and because of his profession, he believes George to be gay, and therefore not a threat to the women in his life. Yes, you heard right. Women. You see, Lester has his own secret. He has a mistress named Jackie, a younger woman attracted by the financial security that comes with being Lester's kept side piece, but is frustrated by his jealous and controlling nature. Now, Jackie also has a secret to keep from Lester, which is that she used to go out with George, and the two of them were quite serious as these two
As
can
George
be.
could get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's also good friend with Jill, who's an up-and-coming actress who is George's current quote-unquote girlfriend, so to speak.
She
And-
seems to think that.
Yes, exactly. And she believes that although George can be exasperated and aloof at times, he's faithful to her. So many secrets, they're bound to stay under wraps, right? No.
Yeah.
A series of events puts all of these characters at a high society party that Lester is throwing for Republican voters to watch the returns of said election. And it's only a matter of time before the receipts in George's life become known to all.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's Shampoo. What did you guys know about Shampoo before? I mean, I've talked it up a bit to you guys.
You've been mentioning this movie for a while. I still didn't really know what it was about necessarily. I knew in advance that it took place in the same year as Medium Cool, and I knew what the cover of the DVD looked like.
Right.
And he has his little comb, so
Yes.
I assumed he was a hairdresser.
I'd love to get back to that later, but continue. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty much all I knew, and
Okay.
that Warren Beatty was in this.
I knew absolutely nothing, and I loved it. Just not knowing anything. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm also always so intrigued by scripts, movie scripts, or even TV scripts like Modern Family, or like where there's so many intersecting
Yeah.
characters, parts, and the speed of it, like West Wing speed of conflict and in and out and blah blah blah. I'm always so impressed by that. To sit down and literally write dialogue, like in my sketch team at UCB, it's a big deal. We have to rehearse longer if there's more people in the scene.
Yeah.
Even if it's still, the sketch still has to be 3 to 4 pages. It has to be. It can't be 5 pages.
Some inside baseball here. I love it.
Yeah. Like the sketch can never be 5 minutes. I mean, it can be, but it would have to move so much faster.
right.
So that was the first thing I was impressed by looking back at the film, was just like, how do you write this on paper?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
They really drop you in, and they're immediately drawing the connections between these characters.
Yes,
and
yeah.
I, watching it for the first time, I hear the name Lester a few times before we meet him. I think it's like Jill first says to Jackie, like, "Oh, I'm glad you're happy with Lester."
Right.
I think that's the first time we hear anything about Lester. And then Felicia at the shop is when she's like, "Oh, George, you should talk to my husband Lester." And I was like, "Lester, he's with both of these women, and so is George." Like it feels
God.
like a soap opera.
Some
Well, it's-
people's
I-
lives are so messy.
I just keep
know.
thinking of that scene in Rocky Horror Picture Show that Janet, Rocky,
Yeah.
where they all
Right,
see
right.
each
I
other
like
in the
that.
same room.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I
How about you?
Yeah, I didn't. This was my first time seeing the movie too. I knew of it beforehand, but only superficially. I knew it was a significant work in the careers of Warren Beatty and of its director Hal Ashby. I just generally knew that it had kind of the aura of like respected new Hollywood film around it, but that's kind of it. I think I had in the past I had confused it maybe with Bulworth, which is another Warren Beatty film, which I have
Yeah.
not seen, but also maybe
I'm putting so many movies on my list.
I love Bulworth. Someday, if we
Yeah.
ever do another politics cycle, I'm gonna maybe say some stuff that's not so generous to Warren Beatty as this conversation
Okay.
goes on. But let it be known, Bulworth rips.
yeah.
See
Okay.
Bulworth, yeah.
But just
But
because
not to be confused with this movie.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think like the only reason I had that confusion is because like, Warren Beatty, as prominent as he is, he does not have a big resume. It's like it's big
Oh, yeah.
in terms of prominence, but it's not like a lot in numerically.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think, if there's, I just thought like, mononym title, Warren Beatty, and I just conflated the two simply on that basis.
Reds, maybe.
Well, that's a little different. but-
Ishtar. Sorry. Let's move on.
Yeah, but I think maybe I like superficially knew about there being a political element to both of these movies, and
Right.
that's why.
Well, what I love is that politics is knocking on the door throughout this entire movie. Like you see the campaign posters in the storefronts. There's that woman who's in the
She's
Uncle
in the
Sam
hat.
hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's walking by with the Nixon
Nixon hat.
Agnew. And I love that George kind of sees her, but he's definitely checking her out.
Yeah.
He's not like, oh, like, who are
he's
you
not
voting for?
looking at the top of her head. He's looking lower.
Exactly. But like TVs are on all the time.
Yeah.
The radio is on, and you're hearing discussion about it. And one of the best set pieces in the whole film, I think, takes place at a political function where Richard Nixon's giant portrait
Yeah.
is just like looming over everybody.
Did you notice another portrait in the background at this
Ronald
function?
Reagan?
Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so interesting because again, this movie it's set in 1968. It's made in like 74, released in 75.
Yeah.
So Reagan is like not even really like on like he
the national
exactly
radar quite
the radar
Wow.
quite yet,
Yeah.
but he's still looming in this
Yeah.
movie.
Politics really fascinated him, and I have more on that later, but yes, so it's very interesting to see like Ronald Reagan there too.
He does seem like someone who would be interested in politics, Warren Beatty, because I think something we're going to get into is how and something you already kind of talked about. He is in so many different parts of the movie industry. Like
Yes.
he's an actor, he's a screenwriter, he's a producer, and and he's a smooth talker too.
Yeah, totally.
Like he is very charming, and I absolutely see how a lot of those skills would carry over to political office.
Absolutely, yeah. It was his choice. He wrote it with Robert Towne, but it was his choice to have the movie set on Election Day in 1968 because there was a desire, I think, on his part to kind of merge this idea of what was happening with sexual permissiveness in the 1960s with this idea of politics also changing. And there was an interview that he did when he was promoting the movie where he said, I don't think that you can really separate the sexual and political aspects of life. He says, I think that sexual politics have implication in practical politics, and that he felt like the film was dealing with the commingling of sexual and political hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's interesting that even though, yes, the election is looming throughout this movie and a very pivotal scene is at a political function, other than referencing the function itself, a lot of the characters in this film don't directly reference the fact that there is an election.
Yeah.
No, we don't see anyone vote.
I love
Right.
that point. I love that. Nobody votes.
We don't, and it doesn't seem like we pass a polling place.
Nope.
It's election day. I don't know what early voting was like in 1968, but I'm going to guess fairly non-existent. So in theory, anybody here who has any sort of like, political involvement in an extremely pivotal time in our country would at the very least be going to vote on this particular day.
I mean, these people are too busy freaking off. Let's
Exactly.
be honest. That's what's kind of going on here. But like you said, the politics is an afterthought to
Yeah.
literally everybody. But I love that it doesn't disappear no matter how much these characters and their story kind of unfolds and how messy it gets. Like we get that interaction with Lester and George in his home.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you've got Richard Nixon on
the
TV
television.
just speaking. And there's that moment where Lester's just kind of like exasperated over everything that's happened. And he's like, I don't know, maybe it'll get better with this guy or something to that effect. That's almost the first time that the idea of an elected official making change is ever addressed.
Yeah.
But I do feel the politics are knocking on the door
Yeah.
and nobody in the movie lets it in. But I think that its presence is very known to engaged viewers in a way that I think makes it interesting to talk about.
Yeah. In that regard, one movie that it actually made me think of was the Alfonso Cuarón movie Y Tu Mama Tambien.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's a great
which
comp.
Also is like mostly not about politics.
Yes.
But I believe one of the two main characters in it, I forget if it's Diego Luna or Gael Garcia Bernal, but one of them is the son of a prominent government official in Mexico.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's an election at the end of the movie that I forget what party it even is, but his father's party loses that election.
Right. And the movie also pivots from these scenes. It's like when they're driving in the car, you see that there's like a riot happening.
Right.
And it's, again, a little bit to what we talked about with Medium Cool, that like these characters are insulated from all of what's going on in society.
Yeah. But they ultimately, thank you, but they can't ignore it still.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you can't ignore it. Like that's the first feeling I got from the film, just because I do care so much about politics and people, is that, yes, we are now in Beverly Hills with rich white women and men that do not have to engage.
Yeah.
They do not have to. I'm more concerned on what girl am I going to mess with next? Who can I manipulate? Who can I talk to? Who can I blah, blah, blah to get to what I want? because the personal politics of like who you're messing with, who you're sleeping with matters more than how pressing an election is.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that that's the feeling they wanted the viewer to like, wait, isn't it election day? You want to like keep asking yourself that question every day. And then you're
Isn't there
watching.
something we should be doing?
Yeah, like there's something more pressing than like he messed with so many. I'm trying not to cuss. He messed with so many women in the span of 24 hours. And
Yeah, it's like it's incredible.
It's
like
wow.
I've marked
legitimately.
5 encounters.
Yeah.
We do not have to get into
Before
this, but
4 p.m.
there's
you know?
like a pretty like impressive refractory
Yeah.
period going on.
I'm going to get to this point, but I also still want to know like what is exactly autobiographical like in this, but I'll get to that. But yeah, that was the first thing that I thought of. It's like they're at a political party, but it's like we're not even looking at the TV or caring about the election. I'm more concerned about who my wife is messing with. And I don't know, it messes with my head because I don't always like watching movies about people who don't have to engage.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a movie about people who have chosen not to engage.
And it's unsettling in a different way. Of wow, like in the same town in LA, these people's decisions that don't care about the black and brown poor people in LA because they're more concerned about who they're sleeping with, and but they got the privilege to be able to do that, and I mean, more power to you. Have fun. Also, I think. It's very interesting. I don't watch a lot of movies where you see the perspective of the emotional arc of someone who is having a lot of sexual partners and like what is he going through and what does his day look like? I don't know. It was very eye-opening I don't often think about, oh, what is this person who is more promiscuous? Like what does his 24 hours look like?
Yeah.
And is he emotionally being taken care of?
Yeah.
And I think we've all been Jill before, or we've all been Jackie, or just someone that has had to interact with someone that you love them so much, but you know that they're aloof. You know that they're figuring out other things in their life. And what you always think like, what are you doing when you're not here? Yeah. And it was interesting to literally see someone's 24 hours and you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to know. But I saw a lot of humanity in Warren Beatty's character, especially at the end where I'm like, oh, his emotional needs still aren't met. He has so much personal work he needs to do, but you can tell that he's not where he wants to be in life. I remember seeing this TikTok where it's like, if a guy isn't where he wants to emotionally or career-wise be in his life, he can't really feel good about giving his entire self to someone. And I always thought, oh, yes, he can. But I don't know. I feel like he did a really good job of showing like what the playboy is emotionally feeling and why he feels he needs to do X, Y, and Z.
Because he's not necessarily going like above and beyond to like have to put in a lot of effort to sleep with all of these women.
No.
They all like him a lot. They are constantly inviting him into their homes and taking their clothes off.
And he wants to be a people pleaser in a different way as well. And
exactly.
And he talks about the validation that he gets from it and not feeling like he is where he wants to be. And I get that. Yeah. My friend's like, Sydney, you're a little too empathetic, but I get it. I get we're all people and people are messy and we love in a way that unfortunately is not always healthy.
See, your response is exactly why I wanted to talk about this movie.
Oh.
Because I feel a little different.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's do this.
No, you're like my best friend be like, no. So.
Well, it's funny because I love that was your response. Like, you're like, I want to look at them as empathetically as possible. I actually think that's a very admirable trait, Sydney. That's really cool.
Now he still needs to grow up and go to therapy and,
on the subject of therapy, Warren Beatty showed this script to his therapist before filming it.
That in itself should tell you something.
Uh-huh.
Was this Warren Beatty retrospectively looking at a time in his life where he was more promiscuous and playboy?
That's a great question.
Playboy though.
Oh yeah. So absolutely. And that gets to a little bit of what I find interesting and also a little bit frustrating about this movie. So Warren Beatty his therapist. So he read the screenplay, and apparently he went on record about 15 years after the fact, and he has this very interesting quote. He says, "Warren is different from other actors I have seen. He can do almost anything very, very well, but that is a superhuman temptation and can lead to great trouble. He does not know, is he an actor, a lover, a producer, a director?" And Shampoo was a film that came after a little bit of a slump in his career. He was no longer content being an actor for hire. And it was from this film on that he became intimately involved with several key aspects of the films that he was in. And for Shampoo, he's the actor, he's a screenwriter, he's a producer. People have argued that he's also the co-director with Hal Ashby. And well, he was the lover too, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's the lover in this movie, right?
Yeah.
If you want to call it that. What do you make of all of this comprehensive and personal involvement of his in this film? And I'm wondering, from your guys' perspective, is this movie better or worse for being such a Warren Beatty-centric project?
I think that it says something about the fact that this is the film that he's drawn to suddenly have like his hands in so many different parts of it. He, even though he was maybe coming out of a slump, he had enough capital that he could probably have made a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. So I do think it says something about him and what he was trying to work through on a personal level, that this is the film that he's drawn to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was thinking too while watching it. Well, it's funny that it is such a Beatty-centric vehicle because I think the movie is a great ensemble piece as well. Mm-hmm. That when you get into a lot of the supporting characters, I mean, actually, in fact, an Oscar was won by I'm trying to remember her name right now.
Lee Grant.
Lee Grant, yes,
Felicia.
Yes, for playing Felicia. Yeah, she won Best Supporting Actress.
How interesting.
Yeah, so she won, and Warren Beatty did
Jill.
Yeah, Goldie Hawn.
Or Jackie.
Or Jackie. I loved Jackie.
Yeah, I mean, I think Julie Christie, who plays Jackie, I think she had already won something by that time.
Yeah, she won 10 years earlier for Darling.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch that. I really liked Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darling is a great movie. I've talked about that one too.
Yeah.
Really
good.
I have so many movies on my list now.
That's a John Schlesinger film that is very modern. It feels really cool to watch.
Yeah, John Schlesinger, who directed Midnight Cowboy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fun. And I loved Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, listeners, go back and check out our Midnight Cowboy episode.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
we're talking here.
Yeah, we're talking here.
Yeah.
But,
sorry, go ahead. Great ensemble piece.
Yes, great ensemble piece. Worth noting, too, that, I mean, this movie literally has McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
Yeah.
Again, in it, Warren Beatty and Julie Christie.
Right.
But yeah, I felt pretty captivated watching it by the performances of Julie Christie, Goldie Hawn, Lee Grant, also Jack Warden, who plays Lester.
I love Jack Warden in this movie.
Yeah, and there's a couple other people too, like the producer Tony Bill, who appears as like this kind of
a director.
as a director.
Guy.
Yeah, who's a little sleazy himself.
Yeah. And then, it was mentioned there's a great conversation on the Criterion DVD between the film historians and critics, Mark Harris and Frank Rich. I've met Mark Harris, by the way, great guy. Met him at a book signing.
Like A.O. Scott?
Same one, in fact. Same book signing.
Oh,
come on.
That's a good book signing,
stack of books. Yeah. Both very nice people for the 30 seconds I talked to them. But anyway, so Mark Harris and Frank Rich were talking about how there's an actor in this named George Firth who plays the banker that that George Warren Beatty's character is seeing
calls
at the
an asshole.
at the beginning of the film.
Yeah,
and
I love that scene.
That George Firth, I believe that he wrote the book of Stephen Sondheim's Company.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was quite a prominent figure in his own right. That's just one thing he did.
I got the heads, man. I got the heads.
Yeah. I mean, talking about casting too, I mean, there's one other very notable face that appears in her first ever film role.
Oh, yeah.
In a smaller part. I assume everyone here caught that.
It took me a second. When she first came on screen, it did not connect for me.
Maybe I was folding clothes. Who did I miss?
Princess Leia.
Oh, no way.
Carrie Fisher is Lester and Felicia's daughter.
She's the one who asked. She uses some pretty colorful language.
Wow, I did not pick that
getting
up.
It
some
took me
food.
a second, and then when it hit me, I was like,
I think someone would have to
back.
pause the movie, like, that is right, and be like, no,
Yeah.
and then tell me, and then I'd be like,
This movie was a huge hit when it came out. It was, I think, the third or fourth highest grossing film of 1975. And that's saying something
Yeah.
exactly because this is the
Jaws.
same year that Jaws came out.
wow.
And one of the ways that this movie was marketed was because of its bodiness. And she has one of the more body lines in the film. The other thing is Carrie Fisher is notably the daughter of Debbie Fisher, who had a very, very different public image. She was like America's sweetheart.
And now you're doing sexy films.
Yeah, exactly. And so in a way that kind of star system connection, very similar to like how John Carpenter would cast Jamie Lee Curtis as the final girl of Halloween.
Yeah.
Knowing that Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Janet Leigh.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of that going on with the film.
That makes
and then,
sense.
Yeah. And then there's also a very famous moment with Julie Christie at the party.
Yeah.
Where she drops a rather explicit line.
Yeah.
And that was apparently used in some of the promotion of the film too.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I think the movie was really sold as like a sex farce.
Like risque.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which in some ways it is, and in some ways it really isn't. It's,
Yeah.
It starts with a sex scene.
Yeah.
But we
It's in the dark.
don't see another one.
Yeah.
And we don't see much. We mostly just hear things.
Also, I also loved my favorite moment, once again, empathizing with what was Warren Beatty's character's name again? George. Good old George.
Good old George.
He's such a good guy. You know what? I want him to date all my
Justice
friends.
for George.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, I think George needs some alone time. The monologue of this playboy finally telling Jill, "This is where I'm at in my life."
This is the most interesting scene in the movie.
Yeah. I learned a lot just from that perspective because this is Warren Beatty's life. So you can tell the acting was amazing, but also it's like, oh, I felt for Jill. I felt for George, but I don't understand the perspective of a playboy straight male a lot. So I don't know. It was like the first time where I was like, this year or past 12 months, just being like, let's see what the playboy has to say. But you could tell this monologue was like from the heart, and you could tell that like this is why I am the way I am.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great to hear from that perspective more, because then it's like, let's help this. I can't believe I'm saying let's help straight men. But
you have to think about the men.
Yeah. Or just like, how do we help this generation of men? Because there's a lot of Warren Beatty's in New York City where they're not where they want to be professionally, and how they treat women or other people around them is almost justified in their heads. So I felt like that monologue was like, here's where this is coming from.
Because he also kind of shifts. Like he starts
by trying to like come up with an excuse.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then he can't anymore.
He gets to a point where he just seems so tired.
Yes.
Which with the amount of people he hooked up with the previous day, I understand.
And he still needs money, and he's still like not where he is with his job.
Exactly.
He's still not able to fully commit to all the things that he is committed to, the people he's committed to. And then Jill, like, she's still there being like, I will try to learn my best how to love you.
Totally.
And I was like, oh, Jill, I know you, girl, you me. But then also when he left Jackie, also I loved her black dress, her backless dress.
Oh.
Woo, that was a beautiful dress.
She has such a sculpted back.
Gotta say, I mean, she is lights out.
Yeah.
Like, she's great as an actress in the film, but
she's
like,
also a beautiful person.
I mean, she's
I can't wait to watch Darling.
like revered physical presences, like female presences.
There's an
in
energy.
film.
You could be hot, but it's like there's an energy.
Yeah, there's
she has
something
like a
else about her.
confidence.
Yeah. She's like the real deal.
But the reason why at the political party or whatever, and they're hooking up, and like the kitchen,
the fridge,
light, the fridge light.
He
confesses.
That's the next party. That's the other party. Sorry.
He confesses like, I actually love you. Like Jill is the person that I'm supposed to be with. That makes sense. That's right. Blah blah blah. But heartbreaking. But he says all of that and still leaves her mid coitus to run after what
Jill.
he should, I guess, quote unquote, should do. And she, I don't know, there's this sadness of her, her curling the back, and just so sad, and just knowing that it's like, I know this person loves me, but even I need to go.
So there's some serious backstory about Warren Beatty and Julie Christie, because they were in a relationship for 7 years.
Ooh.
And she broke it off with him
Yeah.
before they started filming the movie. And he specifically wrote this movie and specifically cast her and specifically changed the ending because he wanted to ask her to marry him. And he asked
He was
over and
toxic
over.
even in the
Messy.
freaking making of the movie.
Okay,
I can't stand it.
I'm getting a sense that you were brought in by his performance.
Yes, or I understood a perspective that I never think about in my day to day.
Cool. So that feels a little bit different than from the performance.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Right?
The generator just came on.
Awesome. Cool. So there are these two quotes that I
Okay.
found were really interesting. This is also from the biography Warren Beatty, A Private Man by Suzanne Finstead. So the movie that Warren Beatty made directly before Shampoo was The Parallax View. That film's cinematographer, Gordon Willis, quote, found Beatty to be a charming guy while he was shooting. Open and friendly, always concerned. The cinematographer also observed Beatty's weakness as an actor. This is his quote, not enough craft and his tendency to be inhibited, end quote. In Willis's view, Beatty spent too much time working around things he felt uncomfortable with. Quote, he had great concern for how he looked and how he might be perceived. The next quote I want to bring up is also from that book. Quote, screenwriter Robert Towne, who was a close friend, was aware of Beatty and his ambivalence about acting, and he was an asset to his performance in Shampoo, helping him shake off his inhibitions. Quote, I definitely take it into account when I'm writing scenes for him because I feel I know what he does well. He presents a peculiar problem as an actor because he's a man who is deeply embarrassed by acting. You have to constantly force him, one way or another, to use himself. Warren has instincts of a character actor. He'd rather hobble around on one foot, like in Bonnie and Clyde, or wear a gold tooth in McCabe and Mrs. Miller. I say all that to say, I don't think he's a very good actor.
In this or in general?
I would say in general, I find him to be rather underwhelming.
Yeah.
Now, he's been in some good movies. He's like one of those guys who is in very good things, and he's had his hand in a number of really good projects. I don't find him to be all that compelling. And I think he's a very smart person. Like if you listen to him in interviews, he is very insightful. He plays the mother effing game better than anybody I think has in Hollywood. Several games. But I find him to be a rather subpar actor. Now, the best acting moment in the whole movie is that one moment that you were talking about
because he was
before.
being himself.
Because he's being himself.
Yeah.
Yes. That line where he goes like, it makes me feel like I'm going to live forever is really, really compelling because that's Warren Beatty. That's not George.
Yes. Yeah.
And I do find that to be really great, but there's so few moments like that in this movie. I find there is a lot to be desired in his acting in this movie.
How manipulative was he to put this ex-lover of 7 years in this position to be in this movie, and then the person who wrote it is also your ex-lover and is going to say these things because he personally, so you're not even caring about the act of writing and acting. You're thinking, how can I personally show the world my viewpoint of my playboyness, my viewpoint of
The hypocrisy
why I
of-
do it, and to empathize with me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there were moments where I think he's like, hot guy, and I'm doing this movie. And then other times I'm like, there's this quote of like, a jack of all trades is a master of none. And I think that's the same way with like the commitments we have in our lives. So if you're, 1/4 committed to 5 people all in the span of 24 hours, how can you give 110% to one thing or one activity or one lever or one craft? It's hard, but we're complex people and we're never able to give 100% of everything. The energy doesn't work that way. But I also see that in his acting. I want to be hot. I want to be this. I want to be that. I also want to maybe get Jackie to fall back in love with me while we're done taping.
Yeah.
So you're meshing so much stuff up that it's hard to just dedicate yourself to really beautiful acting.
Right.
But I just saw Warren Beatty like truly know this character so well.
Yeah.
Like it's him. It's just him being able to play out
Yeah, it's like maybe what's compelling about this film is I think all the women like they're
the women were acting their asses
the women
off. That
are
was my favorite
fantastic.
part.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I think whenever there's a scene that none of them are in, like scenes that are just like George and Lester, it like really suffers.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of what you're talking talking about,
Yeah.
that he's like not really that compelling if he doesn't have like a beautiful, compelling woman to play off of.
Right.
You were talking about the comb and the thing. I noticed he never used a comb.
Yes.
Yeah.
He always used his fingers
He
or his
also-
blow dryer, and he wasn't a good hairdresser.
Oh,
He has a terrible haircut himself.
Yeah.
Also, terrible haircut.
Julie Christie's hair in the promotion of the film is not the hair in the film.
None of them on this cover have these hairstyles
Yeah.
in the film.
Yeah.
Madeline right now, for those who are listening, is holding up the DVD case for all of us to
y'all
observe.
Google it. 'cause-
And look at his facial expression. Sydney, you're looking at it right now. Doesn't that look like a confident man?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
He
It's just
is
Warren
not-
Beatty. It's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
George.
But in the movie, like, he never expresses much confidence.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are other aspects of how his character unfolds that
Yeah.
I've kind of come around on.
Right.
But one of the first things I thought of was watching this movie is I'm like, what do women see in this guy? Like,
He's
looks
tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe you guys can help me with this.
On an emotional, like personal level, what is he
Yeah.
bringing to these women that's not physical?
Exactly.
I know some Beatties.
Right.
I
Okay.
feel like what is so intriguing is actually how well some of these guys are able to listen and bring you in, and like whatever energy Jackie or Jill or Felicia or whoever was at, it's like they're really good at meeting you where you're at energy wise, and will just listen and be this safe space for you.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to like go in more
Yeah.
Mhm.
on this
And-
person who's being very aloof and confusing.
He says
yeah.
that, like he says that to Lester, like, have you ever listened to women? Because I listen to women all day. And I do think that perhaps in 1968, it was difficult to
Yeah.
find a man listen to your troubles.
Because he's not the hottest person in the world, but because he can listen, you know, he is tall, he is attractive, and he's available in a way that feels so charming and warm
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
here I
He's
am having
also-
sex with you.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
also like in a position where he's able to amplify the things that all these women want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Bringing
You know?
out your beauty.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that like him desiring them is very fulfilling for them.
Yes.
Jill says something to Jackie recounting him saying to her, I'm going to make you the grooviest looking chick in this town. And she says, well, if you like me, I am the grooviest looking
Yes.
chick.
She's
Yeah,
like, if you
that's
love
true.
me, I'll be the grooviest girl in the world. And I
Yeah,
was like,
so it's like that she is so fulfilled and like validated by him being interested in her and her being the girl she thinks.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just going to say that we as a podcast have talked about another movie that centers around a man who has multiple women in his life that he cannot choose between, which is Spike Lee's Mo Better Blues.
That's true. Yeah.
And I was thinking, and at the end of this film, so you talked about how George and Jackie are hooking up at one of the parties, and then Jill sees them and other people. Jill sees them, and she runs off, and he chases after her. And so I was thinking about the end of Mo Better Blues, where where Denzel Washington's character. I argued at that point he goes to see Indigo because
yeah.
he
Please
knew
save me.
that
Yeah.
the other woman was no longer an option for
Oh,
him.
that's true.
Yeah.
Oh.
oof.
And it really struck me who George chooses to go after at the end of this film. He chooses to go to Jill first. And then when Jill won't take any more of his shit, that's when he goes to Jackie. But
Yeah.
is there a scenario where he and Jill could have reconciled?
There is one thing that happens between him going to Jackie, though, that I
Yeah.
think is really important, which is he goes back to
His own home.
He does go to his own home. He also goes to the shop, and
Ah.
he finds out that Norman's son. Norman is his boss, by the way, the one he kind
He
of
owns the
Yes.
salon.
yeah, owns a salon, and he has a contentious relationship with him. But his son dies, and it's after that, which I think is maybe a device in the movie to kind of make him go like, life is short.
Yeah.
I agree with your point
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
but like it does seem like there's something else that comes up. I can't believe I'm defending this guy, but
But
yes,
yeah, like what is it that motivates him to go to Jackie? Is it
Right.
life is short and it's like finally time for me to go after the woman that I see myself with long term? He says he's like had a dream about being with Jill when he's 50 and that he kind of woke up and like, oh,
I don't wanna be with
I don't
Jill
want
at
that.
50,
He said,
yeah.
I don't want to be with Jill when I'm 50. And it's like, I think he is craving some amount of stability in his life. And I think that goes back to what you were saying, is like he is just so emotionally starved.
Mark Harris and Frank Rich in that same conversation were saying that at the end of the film that they interpreted, like part of his dismay at the whole situation is that George realizes that, even without Jackie in his life, that, whatever happens for him next, like he is going to grow old, and that in appearance-focused Los Angeles, that could mean the death of his career. So it's like, even if there is no partner, it's still like there is that sense that life is temporary.
Mm-hmm. Right. I also loved the car accident part because we are flipped back into the reality of your sexcapades are not important right this second. And the fact that you have these woes of all these people you're messing with, there is a larger life, a larger beyond politics, that like life is beyond you and your sexual needs. And I like the accident part because it's just like, you haven't been showing up at your job. You haven't been showing up for other people. All you've been doing is being in your own brain and thinking, what do I need? Yeah. And I feel like Jill is what he should need, but Jackie was what he really wanted.
And I think he sees Lester giving Jackie stability,
the life that he can't give her.
He knows that he can't give that to her.
Yeah, right. And also, what was nice was Jill and Jackie both saw that this person he doesn't have the capacity right now to give me what I need, even with the love.
I think that's part of Jill's desperation earlier on to get an answer from him about like what happened in the bank. Like she's making this decision about like, am I going to go to Egypt for 3 weeks? And she's hinging it on what happened with him, which I am like, 3 weeks is nothing. Like go, girl. Like he'll be here.
When someone makes you feel
that'll answer that question.
That's the thing. Maybe she knows that he's slipping from her grasp.
If he's pulling back, he's so hot and cold. He's not giving her a straight answer on where they are and the relationship and the love. Like 3 weeks, like, oh, well, he'll just move on to the next.
And if there's a reality where, oh, well, now he's moving up in the world. He's gotten this loan. He's going to open his own salon. Like he's someone I can rely on. He's someone that will commit to something.
Yeah. To tie a little bit back to the politics, the character in this movie that I felt operated most like a politician was Lester.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
Because he feels beholden, I think, to these important people.
And he's just an older George. Like, what are we talking about?
I love that you brought that up because I do feel the movie situates them like they are both cheating on their partners.
Yeah.
And the only real difference between them is that Lester has established himself in this rarefied air in LA. And in some ways, George has too, but it's like very, very different, tiers of society. And I think that that's like one of the things that when he comes and visits him at his house, they have that moment where it's like, at first he's really pissed and he shows up with like some bodyguards, like maybe to crack some heads. But I think there's a recognized game that happens in that moment. And that's kind of why he goes like, all right, I'll call you tomorrow about the shop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You were talking about the confidence of George. Like, I don't think George was ever supposed to come off as confident. I think he was supposed to come off as, I'm all over the place. I'm insecure. Because it's really showing the playboy when he's not fully 110% on. If it was, and it was like a more a woman's perspective of it, it's like, oh, we're going to watch Jill get ready all day just to see George. Versus like, what's George doing all day to where the lines that he's giving Jill, Jackie, everybody up the hill. I'm thinking Jack and Jill went up the hill. That it's like, oh, I can't believe he said that to her. Because we've seen your day. Like,
and he keeps being like, you're great. That like that's his go-to to all of these women. It's like, you're great. And actually, like towards the beginning of the film, Jill kind of catches this because she's like, why am I great?
She does,
He's like, I don't know, you're just great. Like he can't answer because no one is bothered to ask any follow-up questions. They're like, he thinks I'm great. And even like his response to this, she still seems charmed by, which I'm like, come on, Jill, like raise your standards, please. They are literally in hell. But the fact that the one woman to ask him like, why do you think I'm great? He cannot even bullshit an answer.
Right,
and it's because he's so tired from it's not just, all of his escapades, but just like him running around trying to do these jobs and get this loan, blah, blah, blah. You could tell that his brain is at capacity. So by the time he gets to someone who is ready to love him, it's like, I don't have anything for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, I guess,
Yeah.
So I don't think he was supposed to come off as super confident. Like, I think his insecurity is really showing you like where someone's mental head's at when he's in his, his escapades,
Yeah, like, and it's really all like
that's a lot to navigate. He doesn't even have a smartphone,
Right. But I think that is a good point. And in spite of Warren Beatty's inability, I think, to emote in a way that lands for me, I can literally see, like, in that scene in the hairdresser where he's taking care of Felicia, and then Jill comes in and she's like, I want your answer. And then she's like, is that the one with the pancreatic ulcer? And he's like,
can't even remember
his lines.
Yeah.
That is Warren Beatty, the guy who's wearing all the hats. And it's just like, do I look good in this scene? Like, wait a minute. Like, I want another take of this. He famously did take after take after take.
I believe it. Yeah. And you can see his emotional state too, of like spreading yourself so thin and like not really having the confidence. I think it takes someone more secure to be like, I'm going to take all these hats off. I'm going to remove myself from this behavior of mine.
I think it's a great point. Yes. Yeah.
It's hard. I've been that jack of all trades with many things that I do.
Are there any other points, by the way, that anybody wants to bring up?
Well, one other comparison I kept thinking about throughout watching Shampoo and throughout this conversation too, was I don't know how this one is going to strike you all, but let's see, Uncut Gems.
Oh,
I kept thinking of
just coming back to this after.
For sure. He's insecure as well. Like, how am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to figure this out? Trying to make the deal, and how many things he was doing in a 24-hour span.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah.
Also, this is like an unfaithful husband.
Yeah.
And also that he has like that meltdown scene too.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, that was like, I think that was when the comparison really hit me, when, it's not as much of a meltdown in Shampoo, but that, both characters have that moment where they're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm so grateful that Jill didn't get a tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
That said Georgie on it.
Exactly.
Jill deserves to go to Egypt and find a guy that'll treat her well.
Yeah.
Hopefully not that director.
Not the director.
Yeah, she didn't like the director. Yeah. He was like, can I say this? You think he's going to say something romantic? He's like, will you go home with me? And I was like, oh man, you couldn't even ask nice.
Come on.
And I think, it really is with Shampoo, ultimately, like, I do hold a bit of a, I can see all sides of it, but I think there is room for the view that, the lack of confidence of the character is part of the message, and that it's like, it's not that there's something that was supposed to be in the film that's missing. It's that there's something in this character that is missing, and that's why the performance is resonant.
Mm-hmm.
That's more the view, like, I keep going back to this Mark Harrison, Frank Rich conversation, but that's more the view that they had, which I understand too.
Yeah.
There's one little thing that I love too in that conversation that they had. I can't remember which one said it. When it first came out, he gave it a good review, and then he saw it like 25 years later, and he was like, that's not a very good movie.
Ooh.
He was like, it's not as good as I remember.
It's not as good as I remember. And then he saw it for their conversation and was like, this is an even better movie.
It's Frank Rich.
It's
Frank Rich who did that.
And I love movies like that, and I feel like this movie operates in that
where you're at in your life
Gulf Stream,
matters.
where you're like,
when you watch it.
This is a movie that has a lot of ideas and has these performances that are kind of messy and has a story that's kind of messy. Where are you at in your life where like you're able to lock in on this movie's frequency because it has one?
And where are we at in our world and in our society?
And
like,
that,
the way that people perceived this film in 1975 was, as you talked about earlier, it was kind of revolutionary. With how explicit it was and a lot of the language around sex, particularly coming from women.
Yes.
And then, so, you watch it 30 years later. If you watch it in 1975 and then watch it again 30 years later, like you're in a very different world at that point.
That's true.
And I still think it's a larger critique of how rich people or even upper class white people are so able to be unengaged with politics, even at a political function where people's lives are changing on television. I mean, there's been so many elections where I have watched my 80-year-old grandparents cry because their lives are changing on television. I've also seen like young women cry because their lives are changing with a political figure on the screen. And it's also like being a Black woman watching this film, I'm watching people just kind of like Succession, where it's like people's personal lives can always be a bigger deal than the rest of the state of America, the rest of the state, because politics don't concern you. You're above it all. You have enough money and other stuff going on in your life that like the politics of like what's going on in America doesn't matter to you. And I'm going to go have these escapades all day and be apolitical and not care about the women that I'm messing with. And it's like that, it's that perspective of yeah, I bet there are a lot of Black, Criterion level film critics that I was like, yeah, it's just another film where we're kind of like not soap opera-y, but like reality television-esque white people world of like, oh, they're having sex, blah, blah, blah. And it's during a political time, but
like,
it doesn't
mean
matter.
anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and in another bonus feature on that Criterion DVD of Shampoo, it was from a show called The South Bank Show, where Warren Beatty was being interviewed in the late 90s. And I mean, one point where I admittedly do want to give him some credit is that, you know, the word he used to compare the sexual revolution and politics was promiscuity. And he said that a lot of politicians, you know, have a promiscuous way about them when they're schmoozing at events.
Yeah, they're like
the,
shaking hands.
like the ones we see in the film.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, you know, it's a lot of just, you know, feigning promises that they're not going to live up to. And that, you know, that really is the connection that the film establishes.
Yeah, he's a politician. George is a politician. I need to shake this hand. I need to shake this hand. I want to appease all these people.
Yeah.
I need their validation. It's like he's not a full character. He needs what all of these women are giving him to feel. He even says, I don't remember the exact line, to feel better about himself and where he's at in his life.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with like actors and artists and politicians. It's like there's a reason why they want to go into the political spectrum. It's like I like this feeling of worthiness and validation from me doing things for other people. Yeah, like there's still like a servitude to it, but how it makes me feel when I'm of service to people.
Yeah, I mean, before we like transition away from either film, I just have to take a moment to acknowledge the music in both movies.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't mention it with Medium Cool yet, but the inclusion, I mean, there's a lot of good songs in there. We did talk about, or Emilio, you brought up Mike Bloomfield, but we didn't talk yet about the Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention songs that are in it, which are very well used.
Yeah, they're like trippy.
Very.
Man.
Because it's like those scenes are filmed in a very trippy way.
Yes.
Also,
Yeah.
it's like very strobing.
It's very much like the, you know, the hippie party and Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, then like, you know, it's just interesting too, because like the album, the Frank Zappa album that these songs are from is called We're Only in It for the Money. The satire of the output of Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention really is, you know, quite an estimable work in itself. And I mean, some of those songs individually really are poking fun at the music industry and scenes at that time, and by extension, the greater political landscape of the country, in, I think, a fashion that really fits Medium Cool. So I always, and also just, you know, when it comes to like copywriting, I think that you don't see songs like that used in movies that often in this age of new Hollywood. When Medium Cool came out, things were a little bit more, you know, more of a free for all. It was a little more anything goes. And so you could see, I don't know if there were any restrictions on Zappa songs, but you don't see them come up in movies a lot like that.
Yeah.
You know what you also don't see show up in movies a lot? All those Beatles songs.
Two or three
of
different
them.
Beatles songs.
Yeah, there's Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. There's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And then when they show up to the Republican Party, it's like a Muzak version of Yesterday.
I remember that. Yeah.
That would be so expensive.
It would, I
And
know.
then it starts and ends with a Beach Boys song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, and I think you hear that a little more often, but still, I feel like it's notable whenever a Beach Boys song, especially one from Pet Sounds, appears in the
Absolutely.
soundtrack.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a very expensive soundtrack.
Yes.
And this is all while these artists are still young, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
One piece of trivia about the movie Shampoo. Does anyone, well, I think one person here definitely knows, but does anyone else know what the original title of the story was?
Yes, this originally was called Hair.
It was
And
before the musical came
before
out.
the musical, so then they had to pivot.
And I'm going to go one step further. Do you know what the second title was for this?
Hairspray.
Conditioner.
No. Not that. No. After they couldn't use hair, they called it Up and Down, which is a reference to how you wear your hair.
Oh.
And also a reference to the like topsy-turvy nature
Yeah, of him.
of the day/night. But
Yeah, I think Shampoo's better. I'm
Yeah,
glad that they did
Shampoo's
Shampoo.
good.
there's something
Yeah.
very evocative
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
the word. It sounds kind of nonsensical,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know? I also love that George rides around in a motorcycle. It's just that like
Yeah.
perfect visual metaphor for the fact that he can only think about himself.
Yeah. The motorcycle is also a connection to Medium Cool too, because that begins with a motorcycle scene as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Whoa.
maybe a little bit of a connection also to a movie like Easy Rider.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which, so I am not the biggest fan of Easy Rider. The depiction of America and the counterculture that was happening at that time is so specific,
Yeah.
like so late 60s. I think Easy Rider's a better time capsule than it is a film. Again, this is my personal opinion, but it's not really an enduring interrogation of ideas. And that's where I think Medium Cool like prevails. Like
Yeah.
Gotta watch it.
the ideas of like paranoia and the role of the media, like the nature of the news, the bias that we bring to reporting, like the responsibility that we wield when we like record things, the police brutality, political
Yeah.
unrest. I mean, these are ideas that run all through Medium Cool that I think have just aged like fine wine. My big takeaway is like this movie should have the acclaim that Easy Rider has.
Medium
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Medium Cool.
I agree
Yeah.
with that. I might feel a little differently about Easy Rider, but I definitely agree that Medium Cool deserves to be on that platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw both of these for the first time, and I'm just very thankful. I enjoyed both of them a lot. They're very different films, and I think that's why they were so interesting to pair together, because as you said, they have a lot of similarities as well.
Yeah.
Last couple things I'll say is I loved Goldie Hawn's Jill's apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It like outlooked this big canyon.
Great view.
And it had like a bedroom upstairs. Such a cool LA apartment.
Yeah.
And then I also think a lot, and I bet this will happen to me when I finally watch Easy Rider, is that like films in the late 60s, I think of the Black directors that were trying to show America the Black perspective of the late 60s. And I bet Easy Rider kind of feels like this. I haven't even watched it yet, but I feel like it doesn't take into account like the just like Medium Cool and this movie of like, it's hard to watch white people coast through these times when I think of the late 60s, it's completely different. It's, that second half of Medium Cool. It's the nothing that happened in Shampoo, you not getting a bank loan, like I just assume,
Yeah.
but I was looking up like movies that were coming out by Black directors in the late 60s, and it's like, wow, like it's just such a vast difference between that and this, and New Hollywood. It's like, yeah, you had Gordon Parks and other people and like Shaft, it's just very interesting to see like, oh, what were white directors doing in the late 60s for New Hollywood. And I just haven't really thought about it much.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be in someone else's head. Maybe it was that. Maybe it's like I empathize with Mr. George and John. Just because I never think of those perspectives.
Sure. Yeah.
Because maybe they never think of mine. I don't know. But it was so cool to come on and just like talk about it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I think, are we ready for Unlikely Shared Universe time?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it's about that time.
All right. Does anyone want to begin?
Do you have one?
I do have
Awesome.
one. I could start.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So, because we're talking about Shampoo, and George is, to put it lightly, going through it.
Yeah.
And by the end of the film, he is left alone atop a mountaintop with no to minimal love prospects and pretty minuscule likelihood to receive funding for his salon. I'm not confident Lester is going to pull through.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
So what is a guy to do? Well, realizing that the pain that hairdressing is ultimately causing him, he decides to pivot to a different profession, one that we all hold very dear: music.
I'm so glad you're doing this.
Thank you. So he moves to our fair city of New York. and befriends a fellow musician named Chuck. And soon the two of them begin working together in the style of other folk duos like Simon and Garfunkel, and they even manage to find an agent. However, after many years of poorly received gigs, just when they think they're out of the game, their agent offers to book them as lounge singers in a hotel in Morocco. Nearly broke, both single even after all these years, and with no better options, Lyle, as he's now come to be known, and Chuck decide to take the gig. However, when they arrive in the Middle East, they may quickly sink in over their heads as they attempt to navigate the political unrest in the region while attempting to salvage their last hopes of becoming musical stars.
I'm so glad you chose this.
You mentioned this earlier.
I did.
Is this a real
Ishtar.
story?
This is. No.
No. This is our way of connecting these two characters from different films.
Okay.
But yes.
So we start off, in a Shampoo world, and then I added some interstitials, and then we made it to the world of Ishtar.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. Directed and I think co-written by Elaine May.
Yeah.
Who we love. Did not do very well at the time.
Did not do well.
Famously,
Oh, wow.
this is like one of the most famous
career
flops.
killers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No.
But I think there's a little bit of a critical reappraisal of this film. I think people came down a little hard on it at the time.
Dougie's a fan of this movie.
It was recently included in a series at the IFC Center called Defamed to Acclaimed, which also included movies such as Heaven's Gate or David Lynch's Dune, or Joe versus the Volcano. Things that were initially reviled that people realized with time.
Yeah,
Wait,
with
no,
time.
This has some charm.
Yeah. I'm such a mama bear. I'm like, oh, not a career, but like, just let's take some time.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
I believe in everybody.
it's so hard to make a good movie.
It is,
You know, so yeah, we have love for these two.
Yeah.
I'll go if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I'm thinking medium cool here. When we meet Ruth, she is a vivacious nurse. She's youthful in appearance, and she's clearly very smitten by John. The strong, silent type cameraman with a boxer's bod and those chiseled good looks. Oh, those eyebrows. What John doesn't know is that Ruth holds a secret. And that secret is that she has previously been married before, about a decade ago, and that Ruth is not her given name. Her actual name is Deanna. You see, if you go back to about maybe like 1956, 1957, Deanna, who we know as Ruth, she was a young dancer at a Las Vegas casino where she caught the eye of one of the higher-ups there. He was a slender Italian man who was prematurely balding and had considerable pull there at the hotel. Deanna was a bit of a social climber in those days and was enticed by his wealth and connections, even if she found him to be rather ineffectual. When he proposes marriage, she accepts, but she definitely has a wandering eye and a propensity for drinking a bit too much and going off at the mouth. This gets her in hot water with her husband's very powerful family when she makes a fool of herself at one of these family functions and has to be escorted away by her brother-in-law's security guards. And when her husband suddenly disappears after going fishing, perhaps, she is contacted by the FBI and is cornered into testifying against the family. She goes state's evidence and is relocated to a different part of the country with a new name. She ends up in Chicago, where she pivots into nursing, and it humbles her a little bit. She's still looking for a man in her life, though, and that's where Medium Cool's lead character, John, comes into the picture.
I absolutely did not realize these were the same actor.
Do you know what this is?
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the wife, Deanna, of Fredo in Godfather Part 2.
I was thinking Godfather beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did this one because it's a callback to one of our earlier conversations.
We have
Correct.
talked Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
We've talked
About-
Godfather Part 2. Yeah.
about John Cazale, the actor who played Fredo.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like at the beginning of Godfather Part 2, I do think it was the first communion.
Yes. First
communion, okay.
Is,
All right.
is the event that they're at, Fredo's wife. I didn't realize they were married, but you're probably correct.
Yeah,
You've seen it
they're
more times
married
than I
and
have.
yeah.
She gets pretty sloppy drunk at
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the actress's name is Mariana Hill. And she was also in a couple, like she was in High Plains Drifter too, which
Okay.
is
She's on the commentary on the Criterion disc.
There we
for
go.
Medium
cool.
Cool as well.
there we go. Cool. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think she's quite effective in Medium Cool. Like my heart kind of goes out to her. She seems
Yeah.
like she's really into John.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
But that other guy is interested in her now.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Whatever his name is.
And the nurse was different from the girl in the beginning, right? Like, weren't there 3?
There's the girl at the water fountain,
Mhm.
and then there's the nurse who I think is the girl
That
we
goes to the
roller derby.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 and then there's Eileen.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Well,
round us off.
I can finish this off. So, speaking of Medium Cool, at the end of the film, we hear that cameraman John Katselis is hospitalized in critical condition. Now, he survives, but fearful of the near certainty that he will be charged with vehicular manslaughter, he realizes that he must disappear from Chicago and any semblance that he has left there. After a while of hitchhiking around the country, he comes to feel comfortably at a distance when he lands in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And given the similar versatility but contrary effect between his former job and his new disappearing act, he discovers that he has a talent for transplanting people on the run from the law into new life circumstances. Setting up a vacuum store as a front and adopting the new moniker Ed Galbraith, he becomes a sought-after disappearer in the criminal underworld of Albuquerque, applying his talents without fail for hefty sums of cash. And over time, his contact information makes its way to a local crooked veterinarian who passes said information along to a local criminal lawyer, who in turn passes it along to the 2 greatest meth cooks in the United States.
I love it.
Actually, not the one I thought you were going to do.
What did you think?
Well, first we say this is Breaking
Better
Bad
Call Saul.
and Better Call Saul.
right.
Yes,
That's all, yes.
the 2 of them. You're
Or
goddamn
El
right.
Camino too, which is
Yeah.
the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's which actually I think that movie came out on maybe the day that Robert Forster died.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. I think I know what you thought I was going to
Yeah,
do, though.
I thought for sure you were going to do Twin Peaks: The Return.
Which is another good Robert Forster appearance. And
Yeah.
I like that you thought that too.
Robert Forster was also in Transformers: Robots in Disguise.
Or like the
I was
Michael
looking
Bay
at
movie?
I was looking at his IMDb.
Oh,
he,
wow.
he plays some government official in a lot of movies. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got that face. Or
He
I
does.
was like,
Transformers, huh?
I remember him as being, I think, the grandpa in The Descendants too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
Yeah. And then there's just this one, I think it's only one scene he has, but there's this very memorable moment when George Clooney's daughter, played by Shailene Woodley, is dating this kind of irritating guy. And he just goes, Robert Forster just goes, "I'm going to hit you," and then just smacks him. Yeah.
Should we talk about what we're covering next?
Oh, we should talk
Yeah.
about what we're covering next. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's fitting that we focused on 2 movies that center on 1968 for this episode, because next time we all come together. So we're going to close out our politics cycle with our traditional close-up segment, in which we typically focus on an industry professional, an actor, director, or, last cycle, a musician who works in the movies. But this time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to focus on 3 different portrayals of the same historical figure. And that historical figure, fitting to this episode, will be Richard Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 different films, 3 different actors portraying him. We're going to first look at...
Frost Nixon.
We're going to get to Frost Nixon.
Yes.
Have you seen that movie?
I just remember the Oscar buzz. I need to actually watch it.
Okay, well,
Same here.
definitely. Yeah, I know. We're going to be watching it too.
Yeah.
We're going to watch Frost Nixon, and then we're also going to watch the movie Dick, which I think came out about 1999.
If you haven't seen, you should definitely check out.
Ooh.
It's
Yes.
a comedy about Watergate that has Michelle Williams and Kirsten Dunst when they're
And-
very young.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
And-
good.
Dan Hedaya.
Is playing.
I
Richard
should
Nixon.
say that Frost Nixon, the actor who's portraying Nixon, is Frank Langella.
And then we'll finish off this trio with the film simply titled Nixon, directed by Oliver Stone, in which Anthony Hopkins, in his post-Hannibal Lecter momentum, portrays Richard Nixon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sydney, what are you up to and where can people find you?
Okay, so still November. All of the things in November is definitely my New York Comedy Festival show, ACAP, Angry, Crazy, and Black. It's a one-woman show about Black women and their relationship with anger and how they display it and conceal it, and what happens when you conceal your anger in. It's all these crazy, kooky characters are bubbling inside.
I can speak to how great that is. I know it's probably evolved since I've seen it, but I have seen it and I highly recommend.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a labor of love and therapy of just putting these characters together, and the characters interchange, but the message is there. That is November 16th, 7 p.m. at Brooklyn Art House. I wanted to make sure that it was accessible. Like I wanted the inexpensive price just for people to come and just enjoy the show. I don't do this to make money. I just would love a full house and people to understand Black women's anger. So that's at Brooklyn Art House, November 16th. And then I'm around. You can always look at me, Jesus. Check me out on IG at Sydney Duncan on them. So my name and then ONEM. And I try to be better at social media, but I'll post my shows around town as much as I can on there. But yeah, I'm at UCB and sometimes I'll go in for the Second City main stage at New York. And if I'm not there, then I'm running around doing shows. So yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been fun.
Oh
yeah, thanks for being here.
Of course. Yeah. In addition to this podcast, you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Sleepless Cinematic Pod. You can contact us via email. We'd love to hear from you, honestly. Write to us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. I'm not on Letterboxd. It does seem like a lot of fun, but I'm not there, at least not yet. You're not on Letterboxd, are you?
I am not. I do not call myself a movie buff enough to give critique.
Well, I think you have more than acquitted yourself today in this conversation.
Absolutely.
I would love to watch more movies and have one. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. How about you guys? You guys are on Letterboxd, right?
Yes, you can follow me at Patroness of Cats on Letterboxd.
Ooh.
And you can follow me. It's just my name, Julian_Barthold.
Cool.
Sydney, thank you so much
again.
for staying up with us. This
Yeah.
has been so much fun.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
All right. Good night, you guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.